Alright my guys, let me tell y'all after Grandpa totally messed with Rain with all those kisses, the mini panther straight up passed out. I'd say he freaked out cause he wasn't ready for that much love, like it was way too much sugar overload. After he passed out, he woke up and Vivi was there waiting for his reaction. He still hadn't processed everything that went down. Obviously his brain was barely catching up with the outside world, and that cheeky bunny asked him if maybe he didn't like Grandpa's kisses, and honestly Rain looked super awkward about the whole thing. He even called that dude a damn bastard, swearing he'd kill him cause all those kisses made him wanna puke. At this point, Vivi realized this panther handled it better than expected cause even though he's still a baby, his brain was already reacting to all the outside vibes. The main girl, sweet as always, grabbed him all lovey-dovey and told him it was time to eat. She even had a bib ready cause to her this was the cutest thing ever, and she didn't just make some basic meal. She went out of her way to make something special for him. It was baby panther food with mad nutritional value. It was a can of powdered milk for panthers. Rain was on the edge of losing it, didn't want to drink powdered milk, cause deep down he was the next leader of the Black Panthers, so he freaked out like a total wild child and started causing chaos, jumping on the books. The main girl was more confused than a calf in a snake pit, didn't get why a baby like him wouldn't want powdered milk with top-tier nutrition knowing it's the best for him to grow. Since Vivi was super intense, she started chasing the panther, both bouncing around a closed room. After so many laps, the bunny was dead tired inside, feeling like she was about to explode, but nah, her vibe wouldn't let her be rude, so she promised to be nice. Even though he was acting stubborn and annoying, but she was just trying to persuade him cause at the slightest slip-up, she jumped on him. Thing is, this panther was slick and faster than Lightning McQueen. At one point, the main girl just gave up, totally wiped and bummed she couldn't catch the panther. That hit Rain's soft spot cause as we know he adores her and felt guilty, cause maybe she even got hurt running around like a wild goat. What he didn't expect was that this was the main girl's plan, cause when he let his guard down, she raised her bunny paws and caught him, telling him it was time to feed that baby. And yeah, my guys, the Black Panther leader went through the most embarrassing moment of his life. A quick bunny got a bottle in his face. Since they were chill bunny, Bibi told him if he didn't finish that bottle, she'd straight up kick his ass. Rain had never felt so humiliated in his whole life, but hey, at least it was Bibi and not someone who'd roast him publicly. After feeding him, she grabbed her bag and headed to Professor Nana's classroom. So, she was a magic teacher waiting for the main girl. They both sat down comfy, and the first thing Professor Nana noticed was a baby Black Panther there. The professor asked if he was the kid of one of Bibi's panthers, but nope, in this case Bibi explained she was just taking care of the panther for now, due to some stuff going on. But the professor wasn't gonna let it slide, needed to know whose little panther this was. Another kid there was super scared. Even though the panther was tiny, the panther's gaze was mad threatening. The thing is, this kid picked up on the panther's aura, which is why he was so scared, cause deep down he knew the baby panther thing was just a fake spell disguise. So he started yelling, ready to spill the tea that this panther was really something else. But right when he was about to drop the bomb, the mini panther baby jumped right on his face, not letting him say who he really was. This panther kid had been through a lot. The old man kissed him. Bibi fed him powdered milk from a baby formula container. So he's super embarrassed and doesn't want Bibi to find out who he really is. For him, that would be mad, humiliating, going through that shame in front of Bibi, so that's how he shut that nosy punk up. Everyone was seriously shocked by the panther and the kid's attitude. He had no choice but to bolt to that teacher's safe house. The main girl, super embarrassed, grabs her panther and apologizes for both of them, while the kid won't stop crying, saying that Panther was a monster. But beyond all this uncertainty and the little guy's whining, teacher Nana needed to hand over the results of the questions Bibi had asked her. Now the baby panther finds out those were Vivi's real intentions, coming back to the academy in uniform because she needed answers only that teacher could give her. The thing is, Bibi asked Nana because she wanted to know what kind of pheromones her kids would have, and for that Nana studied the DNA from Ray's hair and the rabbits. From that hair sample they extracted their pheromones and ended up discovering which pheromone was the strongest. That's why the results showed the pheromones most likely to be inherited by the kids are the rabbits. This had her pretty shook, because the wife who didn't want her kids to inherit the attacks that hit Rain, she wanted to keep this on the low, cause she didn't want to look worried in front of her future official hubby, but her plan went sideways. Since we know this dude found out everything while turned into a baby panther, the thing is, Mina jumped the gun, so hyped to be the one with the strongest pheromones she already assumed she'd dominate the pheromone game, but the teacher told her when you got doubts, you gotta clear them up and not stay stuck in uncertainty. So she invites her to check the official lab results from teacher Nana's specialized lab. Because it's true that Rain's pheromones are dominant and cause a red reaction, but Bibi's pheromones are also dominant and cause a blue reaction, so mixing both gives a different pheromone type and the key color is violet. Even the teacher was shook because mixing the two pheromones gave a totally different result than everyone expected, and she thinks it's a super mysterious color because violet means the result is intermediate. In other words, Bibi and Rain's pheromones will be hard to hide, and there's a high chance their kids will inherit both pheromones, the dominant and the healing one. Bibi couldn't believe her kids were going to be born with both pheromones. Nana confirmed it, and if that happens, there's a good chance the kids will do what the main girl did and end up suppressing convulsions in any human hybrid, just like Bibi did when she sat on her chair and took away all the pain. Thanks to this link between rabbit and panther pheromones, if a kid is born with dominant panther pheromones, carrying healing pheromones will suppress the convulsions. Now the teacher gives Vivi her sincerest congrats because in the future her kids will be healthy. The main girl can't hold back the feels. Mina almost cries thanking God, and what she finds most beautiful is that her kids will have the violet color, a unique and beautiful color. The teacher and the kid were shook seeing Mina's excitement, hugging those results so damn happy. Deep down the baby panther felt huge relief, cause his biggest worry was his kids suffering the consequences of inheriting his convulsions. But with these results, when it comes to procreation, they won't have to stress, since the boy or girl won't have to suffer from pheromone convulsions like he and his dad did. As we know, love comes to improve our lives, but only if we pick the right person. That was this dude's case. He fell head over heels for a rabbit with healing powers, so grandma's saying ain't wrong, people. Come into your life to either build you up or break you down, so you gotta choose wisely. Thank God. This panther dude is the luckiest cause he made the right choice and can only be grateful Vivi brought luck to his life. What's unforgivable is that he almost killed her, since she, being his savior, suffered a lot. That made him obsessed and avoid talking at all costs about his dominant pheromones for many years. They had been insecure because they didn't want to bring into the world beings who would suffer the consequences of a hereditary disease. But hey, it was time to keep rolling with the plans to enjoy their few days at the academy to the max. The main girl grabbed the panther boy and took him with her because she was gonna hang out with all her crew. She apologized for showing up late to the table. Everyone was hyped to see Bibi, but the real surprise was spotting that black panther in her backpack. A tiny adorable thing that melted hearts. Everyone was curious about what that baby's name was. The main girl instantly thought of the name An. She's so skilled she can answer any question on the fly. It seemed like the cutest name to everyone there. Even the tough guy was smiling, couldn't hide how happy he was being in the main girl's arms. The one looking kinda uncomfortable was another girl, the ginger-haired friend of the main girl, since she knows everything about what's up with the Black Panther baby and figures the wife who put it there because deep down, that panther is Rain. I hadn't realized it's like a nickname for the panther's real name. The pig clan girl was smarter than me. She remembered when she was talking to Evelyn and she refused to hide the truth from Vivi because Vivi was her bestie. The thing is, back then, Evelyn warned her they had to do what the panther boy wanted. Cause if they went against his will, everyone would pay the price. Meanwhile, Bibi kept flexing that panther baby. She was drowning in love and didn't want it to leave her side deep down. Ryan acted like a panther in love cause, yeah, it's impossible not to show your true self, and the pig clan girl watched everything with a confused look. Although deep down, she still didn't fully trust that Black Panther, felt like it only acted that way around Vivi. And remembered not long ago that panther, who she thought was a monster, wrecked the wolf territory. Then she made a little move toward the panther, touched its tail, and asked it to please keep quiet. She wrote a note for it to read. The note said that the next morning, the magic teacher's contract would be cancelled, so they'd have to wait a bit longer to reverse the spell. That message was sent directly by Everin through that Mina. Now Ryan was a bit more chill, cause at least he knew his loyal servant would be there to back him up, and he was hyped for the next day. To finally say goodbye to that tiny little panther body and go back to being the amazing leader, the charming rabbit charmer Bibi. In another scene, Bibi kept chatting with her girls, and one of them started gossiping to find out if she'd bring her special someone to graduation. Cause so far no one knew who that was, since at all the events and ceremonies held so far, the main girl always made excuses saying he was busy, while the main girl knew they were talking about her boyfriend and felt kinda embarrassed to admit it, but I think what the pig girl said wasn't true, and the main girl still didn't know that Mini Panther was her panther, so she blushed talking about her fiancé. He promised he'd come to graduation, something that happened to all of them. That was really awesome. Cause finally they'd get to see Bibi's boyfriend's face. Being the nosy girls they were, they wanted the main girl to spill on what he looked like and how he acted, so the main girl said he was a gentleman and super good looking, the hottest guy on the continent. Everyone thought he was a herbivore like Vivi, and kept digging into the convo, asking where they met, how old he was, and if he was taller than her. The main girl felt tighter than a thong on her butt and didn't know how to answer so many questions. One even asked if this was an arranged marriage like most in these territories. The main girl felt tighter than a thong on her butt and didn't know how to answer all those questions, since one of them even asked her to spill the tea. If this whole thing was an arranged marriage like most that happen in all these territories, the main girl told them to chill because she was about to drop her real story. Turns out one day, when she felt trapped in a dark, ugly place, that charming prince saved her when she was super scared. After that, he basically pocketed her, and since then she hasn't been able to get him out of her heart. Her friend said this whole story sounds like he really is the right guy. The main girl was so proud, she said she even gave him a heavy-duty bodyguard. Of course, she was talking about the maid who always took care of her, and even though relationships aren't easy, the only thing the bunny girl says is that he always smiled at her and waited for her. But we all know he was also a seriously toxic dude. He didn't know much about relationships, but Bibi taught him what true love is. The girls laughed with joy because they were happy their friend had found the perfect person. And the main girl felt a little embarrassed telling this story, but honestly, it wasn't a marriage of convenience. Simply put, he was her favorite person, her safe place, her base camp. He was everything in this world. With words like that, even I'd melt with love. Even the biggest liar, I'd buy those sweet lies. Anyone would melt with those tender words. So drop a comment confirming Vivi is the sweetest, most loving babe in existence. Scene change, night has fallen at the academy. It's time for everyone to hit the sack, and the main girl, being the good caretaker she is, took Rina to the room so she could rest. But before that, She was about to put on her bib to feed her and lay her down so she could grow up fast. The little rascal didn't want to sleep alone. She preferred to do it with her caretaker. The thing is, the waifu needed to finish some paperwork she had to turn in, so she suggested he fall asleep first. Ryan seemed to have more energy than a kid hyped on chocolate. At night, so he was tossing and turning like a wild one. What Mina did to calm him was grab a doll and put it next to him. That was the best strategy to chill him out while she finished her academic work. Every document she signed, Vivi put her personal name on it. She still hadn't started using the Gray's last name. She also mentioned that both her grandpa and the lady boss of the Panthers were eager to call her Mrs. Grays, since it's a family tradition. Of course, all this was going on in this mini Panther's brain. But the main girl isn't dumb. She notices he's deep in thought and wishes she could read his mind. It's impossible not to blush at so much sweetness. Now this little dude is feeling everything the main girl felt, since she stayed up late waiting for him to finish working. The good thing is he feels calm when he looks at her. Silently, but for some weird reason, he wants to do everything possible to catch her attention. This means the potion the main girl made worked like a charm. Now the Panther guy really knows his girl. Puts himself in her shoes and understands her, which makes him love her even more. Scene change, night falls, and the main girl finally goes to rest, and even though the Panther guy wants to be lying in his bed, he can only watch Vivi sleep and can't catch a single wink. But he notices that Vivi looks like something's happening to her inside her dreams. He's super worried seeing her trapped in a nightmare. He tries everything to wake her up because he doesn't want to see her suffer in agony. Stuck in that nightmare, and finally he succeeds. The main girl wakes up totally startled. The bad part is she doesn't seem fully herself because she feels like she's drowning and covered in blood all over her body. She can't stand her throat and it feels like she's burning alive, but it's all just that terrible nightmare. For a moment she thought she'd transcended to heaven. But I think God has a better plan for her since she hasn't finished her mission on Earth. That way she feels calmer knowing she's still alive and that for now everything's fine. Of course, the one not doing fine is the Panther guy. He can't stop worrying seeing her like that. Hours pass and finally dawn arrives. That terrible darkness has disappeared and the sun is up. The main girl gets up fully charged but notices her little Panther isn't beside her anymore. She also finds a little piece of towel that's completely soaked. Looking back, she realizes that he hadn't realized that the Panther guy was actually behind her sleeping and looking super wiped out, and the main girl started crying out of desperation because she noticed a baby panther had gone to the bathroom for a wet towel. The thing is, it wasn't the time to think about that. There was a ton of work to do that day, so the best move was to stretch those paws and give it all they got. As expected, the Panther woke up since he didn't feel his girl's presence. The only thing was he felt huge relief because luckily he wasn't sick, just had a nightmare-filled night. He felt kinda embarrassed for leaving a wet towel on Bibi's bed, but honestly it wasn't the time to get caught up in dumb stuff. Because through the window, his loyal homie Everin was calling him. I don't know how, but he managed to get the little Panther out of that room. He was totally desperate, apologizing to his poor boss, since he knew this guy must have gone through some embarrassing situations lately. But it was time to get back on the original plan, turning him into a human so he could make it to graduation. Everin promised he'd save his boss and that there'd be nothing to worry about anymore. He cried tears of joy when he found him after hours of searching. Despite the butler's cuteness, the Panther guy wasn't about to let himself be exposed like that. On the other hand, he called out his subordinate for putting him on blast in front of another dude and demanded an explanation ASAP. Everin, caught off guard by the scolding, asked if he didn't remember Frederick. This guy is currently the vice president of the student council at the academy, and of course the student council presents our bunny. It's no surprise because she's the best, and well, Ryan doesn't want to know who she is since he already knows exactly who that punk is. All he cares about is why he dragged him into this mess. Abril said he ran into him by chance and decided to help him out. He even helped him find the old professor pretty quickly, which was awesome. Plus that Frederick guy told him that after graduation, they'd give him an official interview to become an assistant in the Panther family. Thanks to that, he ended up getting a solid slap. But besides all this chaos, the good news was Breen had a magic potion that might fix all their problems. All they had to do was head to the living room, change, and start taking the potion. The bad part was that Bibi was approaching, all gorgeous and shiny looking for her little pet. The three tried to hide. And the best move was to be quick before the bunny found them again because it was time to turn into a man. Handsome as he's always been, Mina was totally desperate trying to find him. She even got sad, hearing herself like that, and she couldn't control that instinct. She jumped like a puppy saying, "I'm here." Those two guys were totally shocked to realize she'd beaten the instinct of a panther pup. She let herself be carried away by the bunny's overwhelming cuteness and ended up back in his arms like always. Frederick was going crazy watching this scene, but at this point everyone wasn't surprised by anything, and it's because Mr. Ryan had just thrown away any last shred of shame he had and seemed like he had no intention of hiding his true personality. Frederick remembered the Panther guy as the war man with the symbol of a brave Black Panther roaming battlefields covered in blood, destroying his enemies. Plus he was praised as the strongest leader in the continent's history, but now seeing him chase after that bunny's chest, wagging his tail like the good boy, he was frozen cold. That's one of those stories you hear but don't believe, Frederick said. the butler tried to explain telepathically to his boss. To please come back, they had to take him so he could drink the magic potion and return to his natural form. Because no matter how much he liked being with the bunny, he had to be a normal person again before graduation. Since no matter how much she loves being with the bunny, she has to get back to being a normal person before graduation. What the butler didn't expect was that behind him he'd find a giant bird. You know, the giant bird that brought a message. Turns out the assistants were saying there's a mountain of documents that need the boss's signature. AKA Ryan, the bird was there to stake a claim because the Panther dude couldn't keep going like this. He was saying from the depths of his soul that the bunny girl was blind and they wouldn't be able to convince her if things suddenly happened. Since the bird was there to save everyone's homeland, it decided to grab the magic potion because it was almost closing time at the dessert shop and he needed to wrap this up ASAP. So he threw himself in front of the little panther, forcing that magic potion down his throat. Thank God that messenger bird showed up just in time to help the butler. Now they had to wait for the panther dude's body to react what the butler was thinking. Since he'd taken the magic potion, he was supposed to naturally turn back into his usual self in a few minutes, but the butler didn't know what was going on inside the panther dude's body. But he felt this internal fire he couldn't control, and that's when he started yelling at the butler, like totally crazy and desperate, roaring and all, cause he didn't want to go back to his human form. Like God made him, no way, but at least they had to dress him before the transformation happened. But the butler didn't stick around to help. He couldn't be seen by the bunny, and just like that bird, Everin flew off too. After a few minutes, the main girl had changed and was looking like a uniformed chick going to find her pet. Cause she didn't want to be late, and what she found was just a rolled up sheet on the bed, which got her pretty curious. Now the main girl had to deal with the students' complaints cause she was the student council president after all. That's why she neglected her little panther for a few minutes, plus they had to sort something out cause rumors said someone had been spotted near the girls' dorm. Mina was ready to kill anyone being a perv, spying on the girls' dorm, swearing she'd show the terror of being a rabbit. Then she realized the rolled up sheet was her pet who was submerged there, so she immediately went to pet him and found a passed out panther. Of course, Bibi was super scared and thought maybe he was freezing. But the day was really hot. She didn't get why he looked so down. She figured maybe it was cause he hadn't found his owner yet, so she offered to take him to the Black Panther's territory so he wouldn't be a lonely little panther. She promised she'd be there to take care of him, even if it seemed tough at first. He'd end up adapting to his new home, and the only thing she could guarantee was that she'd be responsible for him. He just had to trust her. Deep down, the bunny felt a strong connection with this panther, but when she got closer to pet him, she noticed he had swings pheromones, and suddenly a light filled the whole room, leaving her totally stunned as he started his transformation back to Ryan, showing himself as God made him. Vivi was losing it, screaming like a crazy person locked up, couldn't believe he was right there. Rain, arrogant as always, asked why she looked so shocked and decided to shut her up with kisses. Even though he was all hot and bothered, the main girl was pissed cause she'd been tricked by a baby panther, who turned out to be none other than her fiancé, the big black panther. The only thing Ryan told her was to choose her animals wisely and not just give her heart to anyone. The girl kept screaming, and honestly no wonder cause he was on top of her, making a totally weird appearance. Even though crazy stuff had happened here, the main girl never stopped being shocked by everything her future hubby did. This time she didn't want to fall for the temptation of having him so close and didn't want him calling her a pervy rabbit again like he had before. Before saying anything, she needed to know what was going on, but to explain anything. The first thing was getting some clothes for that dude, so Vivi went to find some clothes. Please dress him, don't show off the whole monument. First thing to do is get that dude some clothes, so Vivi goes to find some. Please dress him, don't show off so much of the monument together. Ryan doesn't get why his girl doesn't want to look at him. Seeing him like this is no surprise anymore. He doesn't understand why she acts like that for no reason. Bibi just yells at him that he has no shame, but in the end the toxic dude always gets his way and tells her he doesn't think it's something a bunny with pervy eyes should say, because if we're talking about shame, none of them have any. To avoid falling for that dude's provocations, she prefers to find something to put on him, and the most likely thing she sees is borrowing clothes from Frederick. When Ryan heard this, he let out a massive scream to the sky. He's not gonna let anyone put a subordinate's clothes on him. You know, this panther's ego is God level, the main character. He yells at her, saying she's got no right to demand anything, but to not make things worse, he'd check if the store across the school sells clothes. She just had to stay hidden there, making zero noise, and definitely not run off like she was born yesterday. Deep down, this was a beautiful beast, and even though the bunny was mad, when she looked at him and saw his eyes shining, she couldn't help but feel her heart race. That's how she finally realized that little baby panther was actually Ryan. Deep down, she wonders how he ended up like this and why he was stuck in that weird pot. The main character's in a total dilemma, and if what she sensed is true, she gets why the panther dude was salty about the grandpa's kiss, and also why he growled. Cause he didn't want to drink baby milk and went through the worst embarrassment ever when she dressed him like a girl. She knows nothing she did was to his liking, but either way she has to take him home. So no one finds out what went down. When she tried to leave unnoticed, they called her cause she's the president and has to handle her duties. The thing is, she wasn't in any shape to deal with anyone, cause she was busy trying to get Ryan out of there. It was impossible for her to fly under the radar. She's literally the school's queen bee. And everyone was curious about the shady guy walking beside her, asking if he was the new teacher. People are mad nosy and want to soak up every bit of gossip, while she just wanted to hide what was going on. The funniest part, she'd put a flower scarf on his head, and honestly, he looked pretty damn funny. Then he went full toxic mode and asked why she was hooking up with all the students. He was shook that everyone kept greeting her. She just said everyone felt comfy, 'cause she was a bunny. Deep down, no one knows her real identity. While they walked trying to bail, Ryan asked if she remembered the first verse from the Book of Kings. Of course, she knew it all. That's why she's student council president. She said the first virtue of a virtuous king is his charm to attract people. She didn't get why he brought that up, and all the Panther dude said was that he'd been thinking about it a lot lately 'cause Evelyn told him the bunny was super popular and that Vivi was the reincarnation of a benevolent king. The dumbass really didn't want to talk about her school fame and instead wanted to know how hard it was for him to be a tiny Black Panther and why he kept it hidden from her. The thing is, it was too embarrassing for him to admit, and he started feeling hella nostalgic about everything he'd learned. As a little panther, he started acting so weird that everyone stared at them like they were aliens. Ryan was straight up fed up with hiding who he really was, telling her graduation's coming up so he doesn't mind being seen as her guy, her future hubby. Vivi just wants to keep everything on the low for now, 'cause if they find out who the bunny really is, both teachers and nobles will bug Grandpa about it, so she asked the Panther dude to hold tight for a couple days. Ryan feels this won't be a problem for Grandpa since he's been wanting to flex her for a while. That's how they keep drawing more attention. As student council president, she has to accept everyone's eyes are on her. They even yelled at her asking why they were hiding behind bushes when they could just walk, like two normal people on campus. Now she feels like she can't control the situation and things are getting out of hand, and since the enemies always have their eyes locked on you to know when you slip up and take advantage of it to claim the spot there. It was none other than the leader of the Hyenas clan. This dude has been competing for years with the main girl for the student council president spot and has done everything possible to take her out of the game since the main girl became the student council president. She's felt the intimidating stares from that guy, and now that Ryan knows, his Panther warrior spirit almost popped out. He wanted to go wreck that damn bastard, obviously. The main girl held him back, not wanting to cause a scene right before graduation ceremony. She's confident that even if they make her life hell in this life and the next, she's still gonna be the leader. Because that's why she became the top student, but the Hyenas clan dude wasn't there to call out her smarts. He actually wanted to publicly shame the person standing next to her, so the main girl steps up and tells them if they mess with the person beside her, they'll see her dark side and it's not a threat. Just a warning of what she's capable of, but apparently those guys weren't about to chill. They got closer to the Panther dude to mess with him, telling him to show his face so they could see who the guy was that made the president so sensitive. Everyone assumed he was her boyfriend, and that's why she was acting like that. The main girl tried to keep her cool. But things were getting way out of hand, she yelled over and over, but those idiots didn't give a damn. They kept bugging her to show her boyfriend's face because he wasn't just any boyfriend, he was the president's boyfriend. Ryan couldn't take the pressure anymore and showed his adorable face, telling everyone if they were satisfied. Now that's when they started questioning. If he was really a Black Panther, it seemed crazy that a Black Panther would be with a rabbit. Everyone was shocked, because they'd already seen that face in the paper, a man with black hair, red eyes, and huge fangs. That's how they ended up shouting his name Ryan Grass when he unleashed his Black Panther instinct. The assholes around him almost shat themselves because they were messing with a war hero, a guy who could take out anyone on the battlefield and if challenged could use his powers outside of it. Now everyone wanted to confirm the news and get the scoop on what the next Panther leader was doing. Alongside the student council president, now the girl was screwed and just mentally apologized to her grandpa because everyone had seen that dude. In a scene change, we see these two alone, Ryan laughing his ass off and the main girl not getting why he's so happy they're in the library. All Vivi asked was to keep it low-key. Of course the library was totally empty because people were scared of Ryan. It was impossible not to fear that big war hero. This dude's popularity was hard to handle. He feels like everyone's watching him while Mina tried to keep Ryan's identity hidden until graduation because she knew this was gonna blow up today. She knows graduation's right around the corner, so she has to be as careful as possible until that moment, and that's when Ryan interrupts her thoughts because he wants to ask something important. He wants to know since when she's been having so many nightmares. Mina pretends to act clueless. But well, even if she denies it, he saw her last night deep in one of those dreams. At this point, the main girl doesn't know how to explain it. The thing is, since Ryan bit her, she often dreams about that day constantly. But that doesn't mean the dream happens all the time without fail. The Panther dude wants to know what she does when she feels like she's trapped in a nightmare, because what he noticed is she buries herself under the sheets. This happened because the main girl felt like her boyfriend wasn't there for her. Under the sheets. This happened because the main girl felt like her boyfriend wasn't there for her. Turns out for a while now, like we've heard, the main girl felt like Ryan was trying to distance himself from her or at least avoid her at all costs, and even though it hurts, he has to accept it, but he didn't do it on purpose. On the contrary, he never thought it would make her feel so alone, and he apologizes because she had to go through something tough. That's when the girl lovingly approaches him, and what happened before hurt them both. Even if the wounds haven't healed yet, as long as they're together and show mad love, the pain will fade. In the end, they'll heal, Vivi believes with mad hope and says that to heal you just gotta have the willpower. Rain, close to Vivi like two lovebirds, starts promising her he'll never hide his fears again about that day, and the girl promises that when she's sick or tired, the first thing she'll do is tell him. Relationships are all about straight-up effective communication and understanding the person on the other end. That's why these two are down to apply this communication rule to make their relationship last forever. Bibi says she heard if you confess your love sitting by the window seat, In the library, you'll never lose that love, and without planning, it's super spontaneous. They confessed everything to each other right there by that window in the library. That's why they got close and shared a passionate kiss. A kiss that filled both their souls, finally hearing those words that light up their hearts. Ryan told her he was crazy about her and dropped the line that hits like a stake through anyone's heart. It sticks with you forever and hooks you for life. Ryan said Vivi was everything to him, and at that moment, outside the academy, it started raining with the sun blazing, lighting up the window where these two were. Now that they've confessed their love, Ryan knows she can't run away for the rest of her life, and Mina was just lost in all this passion. She confessed she loves him too, and more than saying it, she's been showing it all this time, which is why they couldn't stop smooching. After these lovey-dovey scenes, we see both the mom and grandpa at the cemetery, remembering Ryan's dad blaming him for leaving too soon. And not being able to see how happy his son was finding that little bunny. It would have been better if that dude was still around, sharing his son's happiness seeing him walk down the aisle with a good woman. He would have loved to be alive and see everything Ryan was living through. He would have been the best father-in-law ever and always carried Bibi on his back. The good thing is he left a son who'd move heaven and earth for that woman, and Rain promised at his dad's grave that soon he'd bring his wife to say hi, switching gears. Ryan's mom tells him the Lion Territory leader sent a letter, and the sister of the dude crushing on the protagonist said she really liked Bibi's strength and wanted to move forward with a commitment to one of the descendants in the future. Everin watches the scenes, then approaches Ryan to confirm that thanks to that guy's dad, his son got obsessed with bunnies. Because that dude asked Everin to buy him a bunny plush since he was little. It would have made more sense to get a Black Panther plush, but things didn't go that way. And that guy's soul smiles knowing a bunny would change his son's life and everyone in the family. Bringing mad joy, the memories show Ryan as a kid, running all over until he finally found a little bunny at the end of the hall. The bunny cried nonstop because she couldn't open the door, and he just helped her out. Behind that door was a high society party where an old man was bragging his first grandkid had arrived. Super hyped Mini Ryan thought the bunny was just crying because she couldn't open the door and wondered why she was so cute, and Round wanted to know if she was a snack. But then his dad came and explained she wasn't food. That fuzzy ball was a baby bunny teaching him those creatures deserve love because they're wonderful beings of light. But this little guy didn't get what being a bunny meant. He explained every creature has its own territory. Just like panthers have theirs, so do bunnies deep down. A kid just doesn't get it. The weight of every word an adult says, and he just kept thinking over and over how fluffy she looked, and that she could obviously be eaten, but that bunny wasn't about to let herself become a roast. But now that bunny's back. To thank him for opening the door, she tells him that her son will be in the future kind to her, and that's how they said goodbye to the little bunny girl. The main character stepped up to shake her hand to thank her for opening the door, and as always, that little guy blushed and was too shy to extend his hand. His dad wanted him to feel comfortable and not be all awkward. Just as he decided to reach out, that bunny got called by someone else and ran off with her cute little paws. It was the first time that kid had opened the door for someone, but in the end he couldn't get comfortable because just as he was about to do it, she left. But this was classic love at first sight. Basically, his dad explains that when a bunny is called by her family, she has to obey, so he shouldn't stress because he'd see her again in the future. That's how he gave him a bunny doll, so he could remember that beautiful moment. It was time to bounce from that spot because, well, folks, they weren't at their mansion. They had to head back home since the lady was waiting with a banging feast. She said on the way back they'd stop by a store where she'd buy him a bunny plush. That was the first time these two locked eyes, and from then on, their lives were marked. That little panther said goodbye, blushing hard, to the bunny girl, but it wasn't a goodbye, it was a see you later, and it was dope to know all this from when the kid's dad was alive. Because now we see that from the jump his life was tied to a bunny, and yeah, of course it was Bunny Bibi, living his childhood just like Ryan. Then fate did its thing, and that's how they bought him that bunny plush, and the kid felt maybe he was meant to marry a bunny someday. That means he manifested it from when he was a tiny panther. Even Ebron joked about what bad thing he did to deserve marrying young Master Ryan. Plus, no one had ever seen a bunny marry a black panther. That was unheard of in history. But this kid was pretty sharp. He'd read that different races could pair up, plus his dad had told him plenty of stories. The lady watched everything from the balcony with her husband, and they were pretty curious about why he gave their son a bunny plush. It was super sudden and caught them off guard, and that's when he told the story about being at a huge mansion, where there was a party and all the bunnies from the territory were there. He wanted to know if his wife had any issues with that little gesture he made to their son. Apparently women fight over everything and nothing. There was the lady pissed off telling him there were tons of problems, because ever since he bought that bunny plush, the kid hadn't let go of it for a second. He took it to eat, to play, to sleep, like that bunny was his whole day-to-day. She said their son was going to be the next leader. And she didn't think it was good to weaken him by giving him a bunny plush because it'd stick in his subconscious. She scolded him that all the temple members would see it and didn't want their son judged from such a young age. The blonde dude told his wife maybe it was just for a little while, because if he hadn't given him that bunny, their son would have stayed in the bunny territory forever. He didn't know who he looked like. But what he did know was that he was super stubborn. Obviously that was a direct jab at his wife because she was more stubborn than a mule. Without more explanations, the guy had to bounce, but not before giving his wife some lovin'. Like they say, you never leave for work without saying goodbye to the one you love. The lady was pretty cold emotionally and had a hard time showing her feelings, but he was someone who couldn't help it. He looked at her with eyes full of tenderness, which kinda intimidated her. He just asked his wife to become a kinder woman and not be shy about showing her feelings. In the end, they were married and already had a kid, so that gave them the freedom to be way more open with the love they showed each other. The thing is, some people just straight up struggle to naturally express what they feel. I think he passed that down to his son, which is why a lot of times he wouldn't say sweet stuff to the main girl. Or he was scared to show he was sensitive around her, just like his young mom was with his dad. That dude only asked his wife one thing: please don't take the kid's stuffed animal away. The kid was barely 4 and nobody knew if his future daughter-in-law would be some kind of bunny, so it was better to deal with it from when he was little. The lady told him not to joke about stuff like that, because they couldn't let the next leader marry just anyone, even though that dude was already coming around. He kept roasting his wife for being so classist, but in the end she married him because he was ridiculously handsome. Still, they couldn't put something like that on their son. She asked her to be a little kinder and softer with him because even though she acts that way around high society, it'd be better if she showed him love. We're not eternal and it's better to show love while you're alive. That man dropped a heavy truth bomb and left. I think those words are stuck with that lady for life, even though she was stubborn and wouldn't admit it. Now in the present moment we see graduation day at the academy. That day the sun was blazing and the messenger bird was flying all over the place. They told the leader of the Black Panther clan to please get inside so she wouldn't have to deal with the sun, but nah. She was so hooked on her future daughter-in-law that she didn't care about the sun because it was a special day. She was proud of that beautiful bunny. She remembered the words of her late husband telling her she always had to show kindness in public. Even though he was in the afterlife, he was showing her that she could finally be her true self. A woman who cared about nothing but her family's happiness, and he with his spirit up in heaven, was sending her thoughts that she'd be the best mother-in-law ever. That's when the graduation speech started. Vivi said that one spring day when the sun was shining hot, everyone present walked through the academy's main gate, and that's how a new chapter began for them. Everyone was crying, even the grandpa. Seeing the speech ready to come out of the girl's mouth, he said a lot of things, but at the end of the speech it hit all the grads hard. She gave her sincerest congrats and wished them a future full of blessings and endless joy. Now she was just saying goodbye to that beautiful institution that had given her so much love and so many lessons. Finally, she told everyone the truth: she was now Vivi Grace. Then fireworks went off and the dishes clanged. For real, Ryan was super proud of his girl, and right then the sly one jumped into her big love's arms. In a scene change, life went back to normal. They were both taking a short vacay and Everin was helping out with all the Black Panther Palace stuff. But the moment we'd all been waiting for had arrived. I'm already crying from all the hype. When they opened the curtains, it was announced that the big wedding celebration with the bunny was happening that very day. Everyone was glowing with joy inside the territory. People were hyped, putting on their best fits to hit the celebration. The weird thing was Ryan's face looked kinda stressed, like he wasn't feeling great. What happened was he hadn't slept much, because Vivi had taken a few days off from him to get ready as a stunning bride, so he couldn't sleep. She hadn't let him see any of the wedding prep, including the wedding dress. They say it's bad luck for the groom to see the dress before the wedding, though he doesn't buy into those urban legends. He thinks the bunny is super stubborn for not letting him be part of picking the wedding outfit. He was mad as hell because everyone else had already seen her dressed like a princess. That was making him super irritated, and obviously nobody wanted to unleash the wrath of that Black Panther. Stuff that made him super irritated, and of course they didn't want to unleash the fury of that Black Panther. That toxic dude was going crazy and wanted that moment to come so he could see her. It was super frustrating that in conclusion, everyone in the mansion had already seen her except him, so he was gonna bite everyone around him and went full loco. Full throttle because he couldn't take it anymore. He knows the bunny wants to surprise him romantically, but honestly he can't wait any longer. Patience is not a virtue this dude has. The people guarding the main girl didn't want to let him through. Here's the deal. This dude was stubborn and tough as nails, wasn't gonna let anyone block his way. The maid yelled at Vivi that her future hubby was about to walk in, and right then they realized Vivi wasn't in the room and the window was wide open. Ryan was losing it, wondering where the hell the bunny had dipped on such a big day, and the craziest part, she bounced out the window. This dude went full-on mad and started searching everywhere. Turns out the cautious and gorgeous main girl was chilling with a bunch of bunnies. Of course, since it was such a big bunny wedding, everyone from her clan wanted to come through, but since they lived underground, it wasn't safe for them to be near predators, super risky for them to be around. But even so, the main girl promised she'd watch over them and give off a protective vibe so nothing bad would happen. And finally, the queen totally ruined the surprise of seeing her at the altar in her wedding dress, cause he was already seeing her live and direct. Gotta confess, I'd die of love. For a woman that stunning, calling her a queen doesn't even cut it. She looked absolutely gorgeous. When she turned around, she noticed that dude's presence and obviously got shocked and kinda annoyed. Cause she didn't want him seeing her before the wedding ceremony. That dude started crying from the feels. Couldn't hold it in, realizing she was leading all the bunnies up to that point filled his heart with emotion. The main girl started yelling at him and said how many times she told him not to see her. She was mad cause he ruined the surprise of showing up all beautiful at the altar, and well, Ryan, stubborn as a mule, told her he had a special gift for her and pulled out a pretty little box. It was a queen's crown, a gift he'd been saving for her since they went to a dance together. Since then, that image of Vivi the bunny as a queen stuck with him, so he saved that crown for this special moment. The happiness was too much to fit in the main girl's tiny heart. This is the best story that's ever existed, and anyone who says otherwise must have some serious stink on their butt. That's how they announced the start of the ceremony. People were hyped for the couple's happiness. And that's how they got married at the altar, blessed by the good Lord. The bunny felt so grateful to be with this man. She couldn't put it into simple words back in the day. She felt super frustrated being just a tiny bunny who couldn't turn into a human body, couldn't dance like the others, couldn't even express her feelings. But after she transformed like she is now, all she feels is joy and thanks. Life for giving her this amazing shot at happiness. And that's why now, after saying yes at the altar, she asked her hubby to dance, and this dude, tougher than jelly, said yes cause now she's Mrs. Grace. They sealed it with a kiss that filled everyone with joy, and the room lit up with a crazy glow. It was an epic, spectacular wedding where everyone was giving off good vibes, and it got documented for history. And yeah, folks, the wedding pic came out perfect. But don't think it ended there. Things don't stop when people get married. That's when a new life starts. The writing of a new story. So in that scene change, we see bunnies hopping with joy, and of course, our panther guy walking around the place. No clue if he's dreaming or if this is his new reality. He was at the bunny temple staring at a giant statue shining bright. His panther guards never left him alone and carried that little bundle in their mouths. It wasn't a paper bundle, it was a baby wrapped in a blanket. They never left him alone and brought that little bundle to him in their arms. It wasn't a paper bundle, it was a baby wrapped in a little blanket. And the coolest part is that baby had purple and violet eyes. He was surprised when he held that kid in his hands, but they both blushed looking at each other because this baby looked like Bibi. This made him feel like the baby was familiar to him. Of course, he was just as handsome as him. The only difference was that he had red eyes, and well, apparently he doesn't accept this baby as his kid because he still doesn't know it's his. That's when the messenger bird had the baby in its claws and took him from his arms. Even though he tried to protect him, it seemed pointless once he realized he no longer had the same baby in his arms. It was another baby with pink hair. Suddenly he wasn't holding one but two babies. One looked just like him and the other looked like the bunny. He was freaking out because both were crying like little brats, and the messenger bird watched as he stayed calm while his little ones threw tantrums. And well, folks, this wasn't the present. It was all happening inside a dream, but a dream that could soon become reality. Meanwhile, the main girl was happily eating and noticed her husband had already woken up. Meanwhile, she was spending time with the panthers. Everyone was noticing that lately she only wanted to eat sweets and raw meat, and the wife who taking care of her was busy preparing snacks not just for her, but also sharing them with the panthers. At that moment, the main girl went somewhere else, and upon entering, she ran into a doctor, or rather a medical intern who was working on developing his skills. The main girl was talking to him because she needed some serious advice. The thing is, she felt really weird. She didn't feel like her usual beautiful self. It was like she was bloating, plus she felt mega exhausted no matter how much she slept. She still felt tired, and worst of all, her mood was swinging like crazy. When she was calm, her heart would race even though she didn't have a fever. She often got chills and had some pretty weird cravings. She asked the doctor if it was because she'd been hanging out more with the panther family. She felt like maybe her personality was changing from spending so much time with them. But to give her a diagnosis, the guy asked if she wanted to run some medical tests. And sure enough, it turned out the main girl was pregnant. The panther guy's dream was a revelation. The main girl held the test results in her hands, and although she jumped for joy, she was also starting to panic. Obviously, anyone in her shoes would be freaking out. Pregnancy isn't no joke. The doctor diagnosed her with 4 weeks pregnant and gave his sincerest congratulations. The waifu couldn't believe she was growing life inside her, especially since she'd had the seed for 4 weeks already. Deep down, Mina was stressed because she hadn't even made proper plans with her husband to have kids. She felt like this wasn't supposed to happen because she was the one who threw herself at him, telling him he was a cute beast. And well, her name says it all. She's a bunny, and we all know bunnies are famous for being detonators. So she had no choice but to accept it. She thought about how she was now building her new family, no matter how much she denied it. Her heart beat warm and her eyes sparkled with joy. In her mind, she kept wondering how to drop this big news on her husband. She thought it'd be a shame to just say it out loud when her nickname was Romantic Bunny. She wasn't sure if she should tell him right then or wait until after dinner. She felt like either way her husband would be totally hyped. At that moment, he grabbed her from behind for a big hug like he already knew what was up. Of course, the main girl felt like he was already suspecting what was going on. Plus, the panther guy asked why she'd been hiding when she eats dried meat. To him, it wasn't a big deal, but she freaked out, feeling like the situation was being misunderstood. Because of that, she was about to confess the truth but panicked. Her legs were shaking like a broken table. The panther guy was getting impatient with all the silence, just staring at her, blushing. Even though the main girl was super pissed and couldn't handle her emotions, she started dodging the situation because she had planned to deliver the news differently. So she asked him to stay right where he was while she went to get something and came back. The panther guy was more lost than a lollipop in a butt. The thing was, he had to listen to Vivi because he knew how stubborn she was. Without saying another word, he stood there frozen like a statue, thinking about the news the main girl was about to drop on him. He felt it was something special he didn't know yet, plus he saw that his little bunny, the romantic one, is about to drop a huge surprise. Have you noticed she's been acting super sus lately? She kept making flower bouquets and he figured she was gonna give them to him. Ryan was hella worried, didn't want to miss a single moment in his girl's life. So he had no clue what was going down. Seeing how stressed the panther dude was, the butler's dad, Bryn's pops, rolled up with a bouquet and asked if something was up cause he could tell Ryan was shook. He was at the mansion not just using his son Abram as an excuse but actually wanted to see the Panther guy again and find out if the rumors were true. Like, was the big war hero of the Panther territory totally wrapped up in his girl's life now? Also, he told Vivi he adores her like everyone in Panther territory loves her, just like all my channel fans. I'll love her forever, and y'all better confirm you'll love her forever too. This dude laughed at the Panther guy's words because even though he loves Vivi like anyone would, his loyalty's still with the Panther dude. It had been a minute since the whole fam got together and Grandpa was still obsessed with the bunny. He even got pissed off and wanted to throw hands at everyone for not letting him see Bibi. The thing is, they admitted Vivi's been feeling off lately, and that's got the Panther dude super worried. That's why everyone's gathered. He can't stand how sus she's been acting, wandering around with bouquets of red, yellow, and pink flowers. Mr. Ebron asked for the floor at this meeting to say he always thought the weird one in the family was the Panther guy, but this time Ryan's right, the main girl's hiding something. Thanks to that, the Panther dude got even more stressed. Meanwhile, the big Panther leader mentioned the house bunny's sleep schedule had improved, meaning everyone noticed the main girl was basically a sleepyhead. Grandpa got curious about this and wanted to check if she had some chronic illness. Everyone was genuinely worried because it was hella weird the bunny was just sleeping all the time. Another sus thing was the main girl's mood swings, like she flipped from chill to bipolar real quick. Most people there already had a clue about what was going on but kept their mouths shut. Saying more would have been like spoiling the bombshell news. Then a messenger bird showed up and snatched a handkerchief from the spot. It bolted like a fugitive because a lot of folks there wanted to bail to keep quiet. Between the sudden mood swings, the people present remembered how they used to help the main girl pick flowers, and she'd suddenly yell at them, calling everyone dumbasses and screaming like crazy. But they preferred to hide the truth and not spill everything to the Panther dude. Even the bird knew what was up, so it dipped. Even a dummy would catch on symptoms were obvious. She's expecting a tiny little one. At night, she acted like a total lunatic craving jerky, and her hubby had to indulge her every whim. Even though most cravings hit at midnight, they had to stay up late and get up to make steak. Neck pork steak with herbs, mature lamb rib steak and wine, and a bunch more dishes like that. Ryan, kinda clueless, remembered all this but couldn't come to a solid conclusion. Or maybe deep down he knew what was up, like adding 1 + 1 since her eating, sleeping, and love habits had all changed. He asked his mom how many days until Bibi's routine checkup. She said 15 days, but knowing how toxic and desperate he is, he wasn't gonna wait that long. He planned to talk to the doc ASAP. Then the meeting got cut off because a subordinate announced Bibi had fainted. Everyone started screaming like crazy goats. At night, she acted like a crazy girl craving jerky, and her husband had to fulfill her cravings. Even though most of the cravings hit at midnight, they had to stay up late and get up to prepare beef steaks, pork neck steaks with herbs, mature lamb rib steaks and wine, and many other dishes like that. Ryan, kinda dumb, remembers these points but can't come to a sensible conclusion. Or rather, I think deep down he knows what might be going on. It's like adding 1 + 1 since her eating habits, sleep habits, and love habits had changed. He asked his mom how many days were left before Bibi's routine checkup. She answered right then that there were 15 days left, but not knowing how toxic and desperate he is, he wasn't gonna wait that long, so he was gonna talk to the doctor. That's when this meeting got interrupted. Since a subordinate was announcing that Bibi had passed out there, everyone started screaming like wild goats. As expected, the husband ran out and Vivi was being attended to by the so-called. She was lying in that bed like a beautiful little angel, and the grandpa and the lady showed up because they were pretty worried. Likewise, the doctor, although a bit late, arrived, and the nosy guy dropped the bombshell. Saying that fainting is super common in the early days of pregnancy, he was desperate announcing this news to them. He just told everyone to chill because the bunny would wake up soon and be stable. And with that news, the doctor, trembling Ryan, just collapsed, hit the floor like a mandarin falling from a leafy tree. It was a brutal hit. Now Ryan was flat out on the ground. Everything was straight up screwed, and everyone else was of course mad worried and low-key shook. They didn't expect that bunny to be so active to get pregnant that fast after everything went down. People were there to support the Panther dude, who looked pretty messed up in the head after that fall. But the idea that he was about to be a dad made him glow. The wild guy told everyone he was knocked up. Some mega crazy stuff now. He thinks he's got a kid inside him, but obviously the one dealing with the fallout is Vivi. But he's like gum stuck to her. The one crying like a baby was the grandpa, feeling mad pain knowing the main girl would have to endure 10 months with a fragile body like a twig. He didn't want the little bunny to suffer carrying a creature inside her. Ryan, being a total nerd, didn't know what to say or do. He covered his face cause he's super awkward expressing feelings. Didn't want anyone seeing him cry, so he had no choice but to jump on Vivi and hug her tight. That filled him with joy. Of course he was hyped and she got it. It was a one-of-a-kind experience, but guys don't just go popping creatures into the world if you're not mature or financially stable. At least we know the future Panther babies won't starve. Cause if there's one thing to admit, the main girl picked the right dad for her future kids. They're solid financially and run the zone. The butler was shook cause the Panther dude never blinked. During the war, didn't even cry when his bones broke or when an arrow pierced him. Now he's vulnerable, waiting for a new creature. What both the butler and his dad know is that this news about Mrs. Bibi's pregnancy is going to be a celebration for the whole Panther territory. Best to prep a gift for these two lovebirds and the baby on the way. They were already setting up a celebration party ASAP. And they were making a cake shaped like a pet with a bunny head and a Black Panther body. After everything went down, life went back to normal, but with some special vibes since the Panther dude went hunting a big monster to get all its meat, nutritious stuff so his pregnant wife could eat right. Of course, Bryn always tagged along. In every fight, he admired how much of a warrior his boss was, and even though he knelt before the Panther dude, he swore he'd kneel before Vivi someday too cause she's a warrior being pregnant with a Panther dude's kid. While just a bunny is straight up brave, after the hunt the main guy went to Mina and carried her in his arms while working. The main girl drooled and slept leaning on his shoulder. The dude was genuinely happy, sharing such a chill moment with his bunny even though she didn't want to bother him, since he had to carry her whole weight and work while taking care of her. Mina didn't want him feeling overwhelmed. The thing is, the Panther dude couldn't work without seeing her. That gave him mad anxiety and lowered his focus on the job. He didn't mind spending hours with her, plus the main girl said thanks to the nutritious meals they made she felt stronger and more energized. She also mentioned the food tasted kinda weird but was super tasty. It was well made. Now they want to know what that food was, and of course it was the monster her husband hunted. But they preferred not to show it to her so she wouldn't freak out. Suddenly the Panther dude started feeling sick thinking about how he took down that nutritious beast cause more than an animal it was a monster, and he was also feeling the pregnancy symptoms made her want to puke, so it's only fair she also feels what her woman's going through while pregnant. It's pretty legit that he feels what his girl feels during pregnancy. Scene changed to dawn and with it some arrow practice. The main dude went to the Panther Palace outskirts and started practicing archery cause lying down all the time was driving him nuts. He wanted to train like a warrior, but the maid was low-key laughing inside thinking there's no way he could shoot an arrow. Bunnies have always been fragile, but now that there's a baby inside he's changed a lot. Just as he's about to shoot the arrow at the target, he notices a kid hiding near the tent watching. Obviously the maid rushed to protect the main guy. Cause she didn't know who they were dealing with, she got close to the tent and realized it was actually a sweet little kid. And that kid was Leona's eldest son, a curious little dude hanging around. Also, he was the humanized version of the man. The main guy approaches to ask why he's hiding there just watching everything around. The kid says his grandparents are lost and that they were playing hide and seek with him. The main dude is shocked, hearing that all she knows with her developing maternal instinct is that everyone must be freaking out looking for him cause losing a kid is straight up panic mode. Realizing he's lost, the kid starts chatting with the main guy and tells him that she's a bunny and he can't get close cause he'd get scared. He also mentions that his uncle from the lion clan made a bunny with a terrible temper a while back, and that's why he's so bad. Obviously his uncle is Rune. Meanwhile the grandparents are still desperately searching for the little dude and the old folks are pretty clumsy. That mini lion doesn't want to cause more trouble and prefers to tell the grandparents he's fine, so they stop looking. Before leaving, the mini lion tells the main guy he senses 4 pheromones in her stomach. The main dude almost loses it. If that's true, she's gonna go cray-cray. He also says he's no mage to guess how many babies are on the way. The mini lion runs off and tells her time will prove her right. The main guy nearly has a heart attack if raising one baby is tough. Having 4 at once is straight up greed. Either way, he knows this is gonna be a disaster. Right then, her husband comes up to hug her cause he can't let her keep practicing archery all wrong. He's way too worried, doesn't want her alone for even a sec. Honestly, his obsession level is god tier. Even though she's a mess, Ryan prefers to stay and watch over her. Cause he knows she's terrible at it. That bow she's using was his when he was younger, but he can't compare their skills. Cause her skill is bunny level and his is panther level. While thinking all this, he also starts imagining Bibi's labor, which freaks him out. He tells Bibi why she had to be born a bunny, which Mina thinks is super narcissistic. Being a bunny doesn't make her less than anyone. This sparks a mini argument. The main guy compares her to other species and wishes she had a stronger body. What he said just pissed her off more. She thinks guys sometimes just can't say what they mean, which makes us mess up every convo. The waifu has a rare virtue: bunnies live long. This helped them lighten the mood and start joking. Step by step they got closer, and the main guy asked if she wanted their future baby to be a bunny or a panther. Dude doesn't care what race the baby is cause he'll make them his whole world. He promised to protect the kid with all his strength, just like she's protected him, and the most awaited thing, another passionate kiss. After that beautiful glowing kiss, a year passed. Bibi had her healthy identical twins. Bibi gave birth to healthy twins with healing and dominant pheromones, which is why that kid said there were 4 pheromones in her stomach. It wasn't really cause there were 4 babies, but because they'd have pheromones from both parents. What makes each have 2 pheromones? The swing babies look like humans at birth, but quickly switch to their animal form. Then when they grow up, they humanize and become full humans just like the main girl did. Now it was official news worth celebrating. The Grace family had twins. One was a girl, and the other a boy. The girl was born first, so you could say she's the big sis. It was clear the babies looked a lot like their parents, and also, they seemed to have a kind of funny shape. The baby's mom said they looked like mandrakes, but still thought they were super sweet babies and the most beautiful creatures in the world. Ryan was shook with his new babies. It was official. He was a dad. He couldn't believe it. He was scared to hold and hug the babies cause he felt like he might hurt them with his hands. Mina hyped him up. Knowing being first-time parents ain't easy looking at those babies, she couldn't hold back tears and hugged her wife. Knowing giving birth to those babies was a tough grind at the end of this saga, Ryan turned into a total softie from a strong panther roaring with power. Now he was a sensitive panther who let himself get carried away by the feelings he got being with Bibi. He was pretty surprised the twins were born, cause neither of them had twin genes, but life blessed them with 2 super healthy kids. Now the struggle was over. 'Cause the easiest part was having a baby in the belly. The hard part was getting them out, and that already happened soon. The babies would turn into animals. And they had to wait to see what animal form they'd take both parents. First-timers were totally freaked out by this cause they had no clue how the transformation would go shortly after. As the midwife said, the babies turned into animals. The first daughter was a rabbit and the second son was a black panther. Both parents took care of them, and when looking at their fur, which was super soft, even the laundry lady got hyped to see those new family members. Ibran admired those creatures and asked for permission to touch and hug them. After getting babies okay, he felt honored. It was a big deal for him to be close to those babies, and just as he was about to hug the babies, the toxic panther dude showed up and asked what the hell they were doing. Both were mad heated because he was way too jealous of his kids, didn't like them getting touched with dirty hands. Suddenly, from all the ruckus, the creatures started waking up and the main girl was yelling to find a painter ASAP. 'Cause she wanted to immortalize those scenes forever, and since time doesn't stop while Vivi was focused on motherhood, her kids grew up full of love. 3 years passed, and step by step they became bigger and healthier babies. The panther dude's mom took them for walks in the garden, and the grandpa who taught philosophy and logic turned into a poet writing love songs for the babies. The other swings in the house took care of the babies. Everyone did an amazing job because they were the Grace family's pride, and the twins had everyone in the mansion wrapped around their little fingers. Apparently, Grandpa was figuring out that whenever something happened to Bibi, the same thing happened to the creatures, aka the kids. Both babies were fighting a fever and were super connected like twin siblings. Everyone in the mansion was worried, and as the good dad he was, the panther dude stayed up all night on guard, watching over his wife and little ones. He looked like a zombie by dawn. His dark circles took over his face. But the most important thing for him was that his creatures were okay, and even though he thought he was alone, Everin never left his side along with the messenger bird. Suddenly something unexpected happened. The humanization process of his little ones began. The first to transform was the girl going from rabbit to human. She was a super cute girl, with a very special resemblance to her dad. Maybe that's why they were sick for several days. The first words the girl said were "Dad." The girl started talking smoothly with her dad and told him that since she was a rabbit she had something stuck she wanted to tell them. And that these parents hadn't given her a name yet. They had 2 names in mind, but hadn't chosen which one was right. The mini rabbit panther told her dad she liked the name Xenia. I'd never seen a kid so extra who picked their own name and actually made it happen. It's super comforting, but his sister didn't just want to be humanized herself, she also wanted her bro to get out of bed. The girl started calling the swings, having a blast messing around with them and making them sit right in front of her. See, the bunny thought they were dogs because she made them stand and sit. What's wild is that this little girl, at such a young age, was already using dominant pheromones. Within minutes, a light started filling the whole place. The boy had humanized too. It was a huge glow-up, but the kid had pink hair just like his mom. That's how Ryan and Vivi ended up with Senya and Ser Bueno, my people. The main girl was apparently just sick from her kid's transformation. But life in that castle kept going, and that's when we see the hand holding that braid, looking like they're in full-on, thinking about the next hairstyle mode. They see that braid's got more style than me at a party check. That ball looks like she's about to drop a sick freestyle any second. I'm the queen of the party. Then we see that dude who's got a smile that could melt even the toughest, and those toys who needs a dog when you've got a whole arsenal of plushies. The joke is that this little dude doesn't want to play with all the toys around him. He'd rather mess with his uncle. So he goes, "I love how you look, uncle. This kid's a straight-up genius. If everyone used that move, uncles would be hyped at family gatherings. That blue-haired dude is in full 'don't talk to me, my life's a mess' mode." And to top it off, he's got to deal with the kid and his nonsense. That look says, "I can't believe I got myself into this," like he's stuck in a reality show. Look at that scene with the uncle in the mirror and the kid beside him. It's like they're prepping for the next big event, like the family runway. That laugh is mad contagious, reminds me of cracking up at a bad joke at the dinner table. The kid's dad is having fun. 'Cause we all know Ryan loves watching the world burn. That's fire and drama. This moment's got more tension than a soccer final. To make it worse, he pisses him off by dropping the line, "Isn't Uncle Kim's hair nicer?" And yeah, sometimes a fresh hairstyle changes everything. Dealing with kids ain't for everyone. Here's a classic example. We see him like when someone accidentally steps on your butt. That guy's glare could cut through steel. They should make a series about this with more drama and laughs. I'd be hyped to watch them piss off the blue-haired dude. Or maybe it's just me because I've been through so much with my nephews. I totally relate. The kid with the sparkling eyes just stares at his uncle with that angelic face like he's asking for candy. But instead he wants to conquer the world, while the uncle, all confused, has that "I don't know what to do" look like someone just asked if he wants to hit the park or a museum. The little guy's back with the "please give me what I want" eyes. This kid's got more magic than a birthday party magician. The blue uncle's wondering if he really signed up for this, thinking to himself, "Why do I always have to deal with this cuteness?" Even though he acts tough, he loves spending quality time with his nephews. These scenes are straight out of a rom-com but kid version. His face is just like his dad's but angelic AF. The kid's a total sweetheart and the dad's got his own charm, but the uncle's wondering when exactly. His life turned into a fairy tale. Suddenly Ryan stopped having fun because Evelyn showed up with an envelope to whisper something in his ear and put on that classic surprised face that's meme gold, the face of this panther dude. Like he just found out his buddy's getting married. This is getting more interesting than a Turkish soap opera. The crazy part is Ryan thinks someone's setting up a deal to marry his kids off in the future. This dude's more out of place than a penguin in the desert. He's misreading everything. Both Ryan and the butler are low-key scheming. It's like they're in a secret meeting, but instead of conspiracies, they're talking about love. Then a little intruder shows up to eavesdrop on the letter convo, and the girl with starry eyes is about to discover the world and hears the word marriage, which sounds super serious to her. And on top of that, the little troublemaker feels attracted to what marriage implies. Even though she's young, she already wants to live her love story. Suddenly the girl lets out a scream that could shatter glass, like she just found out that there's gonna be a birthday party. The kid's putting everyone on edge, but her dad can't handle it. Seeing how into it his daughter is, Ryan's already toxic. I can't even imagine how he'll act when in the future she shows up with a son-in-law. The girl asked if the proposal was for her and had this look like I'm gonna be the hottest bride here. The uncle's also curious about everything going down. Pretty much everyone is losing their minds. The tension was thick in the air. Everyone's like, what's even happening here? So they clear the situation up because otherwise it was about to be a full-on war. Ebron explains he's not marrying anyone. This dude's got more common sense than most adults. The confused girl starts diving deeper into the convo. You can tell she's really interested. In the end, the boy drops a major truth bomb telling her they shouldn't marry people they don't know or send letters to strangers who have no clue who they are. That's why he ended up saying, I don't think that's good for you either. Wise words from a kid who often has more sense than adults. Ryan also weighs in on this, saying people should meet others and choose who could be the best, but he's got no moral ground to talk about that because he hasn't looked at anyone else since he was a kid. He fell for the bunny at first sight, and that was his love at first sight for life. The little girl says something that doesn't sit well with her dad, Ryan, saying a rabbit's heart changes now and then, and that's advice everyone should keep in mind. That's why she told her dad she's already going her own way. She's wanted to be an empowered girl since she was little. Ryan froze like what just happened. It's like someone dumped a bucket of cold water on him. He wasn't expecting those words. That hit deep in his subconscious, stirring up insecurities. He was basically ready to start a drama. It was like he'd just heard a betrayal. He started screaming like a crazy man, totally unhinged, his tension rising. That dude went from laughing to full-on drama in a second. His poor son was super confused. Ryan tried covering the kid's ears so he wouldn't hear his crazy screams and freak out even more. He faked a laugh worse than mine when I have to say thanks for a half-assed job. The joke is now the little girl staring at her dad, and to add more madness to the scene, he tells her she'll never see him angry. Obviously that's a lie. He's just pretending to be sane when inside he's dying of rage. To top off the convo, Ryan questions the girl because he wants to know who got her all riled up, and the innocent kid falls into Ryan's trap, telling him her mom said it's good to see men and that mom's wisdom is always key. Now Ryan sees the protagonist as a villain. That shocked face is a total meme. Scene change and the bunny baby's ears were ringing. She knew something was off, sensed and smelled the fury of a beast, so she interrogated a subordinate, but that dude was super useless in life, couldn't help the protagonist at all. Suddenly Mina started yelling to close the windows. She felt imminent danger. The subordinate told her to chill and go upstairs, but no. Things just kept sounding worse, so she ran out, but at the door she ran into her great love Ryan. But instead of being happy to see him, it was a horror movie level climax. The girl was in survival mode, while Ryan stood in front of her with that perfect expression to leave everyone hanging. The protagonist doesn't give this dude any space, slams the door in his face and leaves. She's savage, opened the window, hit her bunny legs with nitro again and started saying she had to run. While running, she thought she was escaping a ferocious beast. She could smell her husband's pheromones from afar. So she knew for some weird reason he was mad. But apparently it was impossible for the Panther guy to hide it. In less time than it takes a frog to croak, he was right next to her, basically asking why the hell she was running from him. Mina replied she took off because she felt like she was being chased. At that moment, the waifu wished she had her bunny form so she could bounce around like crazy and be nearly impossible to catch. Deep down, she really wanted that transformation, and obviously Ryan wasn't going to be left behind. If she wanted to be a bunny, he had to be a panther, easy as that, just like intrusive thoughts. In the end, both of them still in human form kept talking with Ryan, telling her that the more he heard, the more he'd chase her. The best move was to act like adults and take responsibility to face their issues and talk it out. Like civilized rational people, they hid in a corner like two lovebirds and started chatting. Ryan questioned her aggressive way of running away just to dodge being grilled. At that point, anyone could see her as guilty. It got so bad that Estesh asked if she felt any guilt or conscience pangs, because she basically acted like she was doing something wrong, just like my ex did when cheating on me, the waifu thought. She could only watch and drift off thinking this dude was crazy handsome, and honestly seeing him mad just made her all hot and bothered. The best thing now was to settle their differences so this Panther guy wouldn't start giving her the cold shoulder like before when he couldn't control his emotions. Mina asked why he had such a hostile attitude toward her when at first glance she was just a cute little bunny. Ryan shouted, "Cheating bunny." The protagonist was totally confused. That was a major insult. The wild part, they'd been together so long. Yet Ryan was still insecure. They're married now, even have kids, and he's still thinking the same stuff. Dude's straight up crazy. The waifu confessed that at a tea party a gentleman was visiting, and Vivi, being Vivi, loudly said that guy was hot eye candy for sure, but that didn't make her unfaithful. She thought telling Ryan the truth would chill him out, but nope, this dude was crazier than a goat steaming mad with jealousy. He tried to be reasonable for a sec and told her that wasn't the real reason he was upset. Still, he canceled tea parties for 3 months. This guy's super bossy. He said he was mad about something deeper and promised to banish every handsome dude who got close to the bunny. Shabibi was getting tired of him calling her a cheating bunny, so she straight up asked what the hell the real problem was. Instead of being honest and telling her what was going on, he just stared at her until she got uncomfortable, then ended up leaning on the bunny's chest like a kid. He confessed he was sad because his little adorable daughter told him a bunny's heart can change any time, and that's why they need to meet more people in every sense of the word. His panther heart was shattered imagining that someday his bunny would leave him for someone else. He asked if she regretted it because he caught her in his panther mansion. Vivi was lost, didn't get why he brought that up right now. The protagonist confessed that her daughter was a bit outgoing and a bit of a flirt, no clue who she got that from, but she loved handsome people and was super romantic. One day they were out walking and she spotted a cute kid, and the little tease started staring at him like it was love at first sight. At such a young age, she was already developing that instinct. After seeing that kid, she threw a huge tantrum and told her mom she was gonna marry that dude. She assured her mom she wanted to marry the handsome kid. To persuade her, the protagonist told her she couldn't get engaged so young, because bunnies change their minds all the time and meet more good people over time, implying that Vivi, as a mom, didn't want to break her daughter's heart, so she had to say that. Ryan, being clingy, told the protagonist, because rabbits kept changing their minds all the time, and over time he gets to know more good people, which hints that Vivi, as a mom, didn't want to break her daughter's heart, so she had to tell her that. Ryan, pretty clingy, told the main girl that he'd forgive her one last time. We know there's a whole backstory deep down. It's typical of relationships with ups and downs. It's like those couples who fight and then end up hugging and everything's love straight out of a soap opera, but we're here for it. After that they kiss and it's the most awaited moment. Deep down we all want to see them make up. It's like in the movies, a classic. Suddenly in a scene change we see the so-called watching just as lost as we are sometimes. It's like when you're stuck in an awkward sitch and have no clue what's going on, and there's the girl up in the tree, the panther staring at her like poor babe. You can tell something's bugging her. It's the kind of moment that makes you want to protect her, like when you see your homie in trouble. We watch her trying to fix her mess, but she's clueless on how the hell to get down the cruise watching and knows they gotta find her dad. They're like those ride or die friends who always show up when you need them. There's always a savior in the story. Otherwise the girl would have totally pissed her dress while trying to stay chill. Cause she knew rescue was coming, then she spots someone rolling up from afar and he's no familiar face. This mysterious dude claims the tree's his, and looking at it hits him with pure nostalgia. It's like those reunions that make you reflect on the past. Everyone loves a good throwback, and as he steps closer letting Senna see him, she asks who he is. The kid's curiosity is straight up adorable, telling him she's never seen him before and his vibe feels weird. The guy says he had some personal drama and knows Xenia's too young to remember him. The little girl says she'll never forget his face, showing that pure, beautiful innocence. It's like making friendship promises you hope to keep forever, then the dude drops "my name's Rune." And just like that, he shows up like a fresh start, a new chapter in the story.